Hey, what's going on? Bladers Crow here. So today I want to take a look at something I've been wanting to do since before I even made this channel. The whole purpose of making this channel was to kind of document me as a beginner competitive Beyblader, how I started as someone who's just so novice, extremely novice, to someone who can win and top in tournaments. Now, I just really didn't do a lot of the beginner stuff like I really wanted to because of the logistical stuff that was going on in my life with moving and all that stuff. But now that I'm in my brand new home and I'll be here for 3 years, I was like, you know what? Now is definitely the time. But there's a little bit of a gap from being a novice to winning tournaments because I've won multiple big tournaments and I've also topped in S1 tournaments. So yeah, it's a little bit, you know, a little bit late. But I'm just going to show you how the progress I've made, and today's video is going to be the first of many showing exactly what I'm doing to get myself in a position to win in a competitive scene. Now for this first video, you already know because it's the title of the video, but we're going to just talk about stance. Not going to go crazy in depth with the grips and the launch styles because I want to keep that separate. That's probably gonna take up a lot of time to just go into like what type of grips, what launchers you should be using, the techniques, the angles. A lot of that stuff it has to be another video. For this, I wanna keep it short and sweet and just talk about your body. Essentially, how are you positioning your body and what is kind of like your goal and your comfort level. So I do have a couple of different positions that I personally use, and I'm going to also talk about the positions that other people use, and perhaps I'm not really too keen on how that body is situated. But like I've mentioned, everyone's different. You're gonna have your own little comfort zone and how you want to position your body. Maybe that style is comfortable to you. To me, it's probably not. So just take all this with a grain of salt. Experiment with your own launch style. That's the whole point of this. Is you get to learn a little bit something and you get to execute and try it out so that way you can formulate your own launch style. Now, one thing to note whenever you have both opponents on each side of the stadium, the thing that we do here in Japan is you're gonna do paper, scissors, rock. And that's gonna determine whoever wins the paper, scissors, rock, they're going to choose what side they're going to want to be on of the stadium, and they get to stay there throughout the entire duration of that match. So that's something that you need to keep in mind if you decide to play in Asian regions, or if you are already in like Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand. I'm pretty sure you already do that. If you don't, then hey, ignore me. Whatever you gotta do. But this is what we do in Japan. So that's something that you really need to keep in mind whenever you're coming up here. A little tip, whatever side you already want to be on, just rush to that side before your opponent. That's what I do all the time. I prefer, like if you're looking at the stadium like this, I prefer to be on the left-hand side. So obviously we're on this side, this is my left. So yeah, I prefer the left because the way I do battles with my attack types is I want my opponent to go from here, from the inside, all the way down to the middle. So that's why I usually choose this side, because of the angle I launch on, it gives my opponent time to go ahead and reach into that middle. But we're a little bit ahead of ourselves. Let's go into the stance. All right, so this is going to be my main stance. So if I'm on the side of the stadium that I want to be on, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I'm going to want my foot to be almost like borderline touching the stadium, or the little riser right here. And I'm going to want this foot over here to be somewhat offshoot. Now I go really deep, so my feet will almost be like this. I will have a much wider stance than my shoulder length. So my shoulder length is probably about like that big. So yeah, I'm going a little bit further out than my shoulder length. Now next, let's go ahead and get our launcher. Okay, so obviously the stance is going to be pretty wide. I got my trusty launcher in one hand, I got the Beyblade in the other. So in this point, we're gonna talk a little bit more about this in a more mental preparation, but right now I'm trying to just get into the mode, all right? The stance is good, the stance is solid, I'm feeling it, all right? Now when I'm going in, I'm basically twisting my body and I'm putting a lot more emphasis on my body towards the stadium itself. There's a reason for that. So when I'm going in there, I have my launch. It doesn't really matter right now if I'm going angled or flat, that's okay. So they say 3, 2, 1, go shoot. All right, so on the shoot, I'm using a string launcher. It's gonna be different for ripcords, but when they go like that, I'm just gonna do a practice one. This is what I'm doing. I do like this, and I'm keeping control of this right here, but I'm utilizing both my back, my lats, I'm using my shoulders, and I'm pulling and letting go. That's what it is. People do like a snap, that's fine. Me, when I'm doing like that, I'm loosely holding on to it, and you just let go. So we're gonna go ahead and do it in real time. 3, 2, 1, go. And maybe this is different for everybody, that's fine. But what I'm doing is I'm just trying to utilize my core. Mostly it's gonna be my core and a little bit of my back. So like I said, coming in like this, and you're just ripping it. It sounds ridiculous, I know, but that is my game-winning strat right now. It's worked wonders, and I think I'm gonna keep that strat going. But let me know in the comment section below if you tried it. How does that work for you? All right, guys. So for the next stance, which I think is it's a pretty common stance, to be honest. You're just gonna keep your feet completely parallel with each other, and they're gonna be shoulder length apart. Okay, so this is gonna go into launch styles just a little bit. Now, with your stance, you're gonna have a slight bend of the knee. Honestly, you can go further down, you can go up, but just realize that the stadium itself might be a little bit lower, so you might have to bend over a little bit lower, which is completely fine. But we're right here, got a bend in the knee, so you can arch your back up or you can bend forward, but I kind of recommend keeping your back a little bit more straight. You can push your buttocks out, that's completely fine. But you're gonna be right here. Now, once again, I'm using a string, I'm not using a rip cord. What you're gonna do, 3, 2, 1, go shoot. You're basically trying to use your delts, you're trying to use your lats and your triceps. That's like the focus, and you're tightening up your core the whole time. So 3, 2, 1, go. Definitely recommend practicing a lot first before you go into your first official match. Just trying to get this and just you're doing it off the cuff and you're not really used to it. So definitely practice it first. Okay, so for this final stance I'm really going to talk about, this is more of a custom stance. I don't really have a name for it, but I've done this in the beginning and it did work really well, and I pretty much enjoyed it. So the way you're going to do it is you're pretty much going to try and keep your lead foot, you don't have to keep it as straight, it doesn't have to be perfectly straight to the stadium, but some kind of basic stance right there. For your rear leg, I usually want to keep that a little bit more on like a perpendicular kind of position, just that way I can like push back on it. That's the whole goal. Now when you're going up and you're gonna go ahead and play, I do a little bit of a lean forward, but the whole point of this is to utilize your hips. You're kind of driving and using all that rotation and power through your hips like that. So in a lot of like battles and martial arts, you're basically doing the opposite. You're pushing your lead up forward. But this one, I'm actually doing it the opposite way. And it worked pretty well, so keep everything upwards from your body on up. Pretty normal, so I'm just kind of like bending down just a little bit. Knees are bent. This one's a little bit more straight, but you're gonna go ahead and basically, and that's gonna give you a little bit extra power. Probably not the most recommended. I say go back to the neutral one and work that into whatever makes you feel comfortable. But that stance that I just shown you, it's fine if you want to just get something, go in there and utilize it. That's a good stance in my opinion. Just going in there, your feet are just slightly wider than shoulder length, completely okay. And when you're launching, have a little bit of a bend, and you basically just rotate that hip. You're gonna get good power all the time. All right guys, so in conclusion, like I mentioned, do whatever makes you feel comfortable, especially if you already have like, you know, any kind of injuries, like pre-existing injuries. Don't push yourself to a limit to hurt yourself. I have been recovering from my herniated disc. It's still present. But honestly, I've been just really trying to do stances that's not really putting a lot of pressure on my back, and instead putting a lot of that pressure and like energy and balance into my legs and core. So what I'm doing is kind of more centered towards me, but I'm really hoping that maybe you can take a bit of what I'm talking about and what I've displayed and utilize it for your own stances. That's honestly that's the best thing I can really hope that you can take away with this. But other than that, I think that's really all I got. The stance thing is really big to me, and I've been practicing stances for about 2 months now, like actually just practicing my stance exclusively. So right now I think I got pretty much perfected, and it's doing pretty much wonders for me. But yeah, that's it for me, guys. Thank you all for watching. If you can, go ahead, just drop a little like. Go ahead and subscribe if you are not subscribed already. But other than that, guys, let me know in the comment section below, what kind of stance do you utilize for your own battles? But thank you all for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.